Hey everyone, it's Lisa Bongean from Primitive Gatherings, and it's time to reveal our March wool subscription box. So, super excited. We got an Easter project out, plenty of time for you to make before Easter. So let's show you what that looks like. Here is your kit, and in here I came up with 3 different little projects. So here's the main project, this little banner that fits on our stands that we've been selling here at Primitive Gatherings. It's like a large clipboard. Kaylee will insert that for you. And if you carefully cut out these letters, you're able to make this little Happy Easter runner. So how fun is that? And then I added these little daffodils on the tongues there. And then, how about a cute little pincushion? That's springy colors, nice and bright, a little bit different than what we've had in the past. So, you know, it's okay to go a little bit bright once in a while. Now, our ongoing project for 2022, here are your colors for that one. So I hope you're keeping up on those. Here's your packet of wools. And like I said, this will be a 6-part project that you will be able to complete with the remaining boxes for 2022. Jessica has curated a pastel bundle here for you, and it's got kind of a little bit of a heather to them, so they're not super bright like these are. So that's kind of fun. You can, you know, maybe if you don't like those bright colors, you can substitute some of those darker ones there. And then we have our 2 recipes from Chef Erica at the Gathering. We have vegetable lasagna and peanut butter cookies. So those are her recipes for that. We have a stitch called the Palestrina knot stitch. So add to your cards there. Of course, we have the caramels. And then last but not least, our Dragonfly Dreams. Here you have 4 more blocks. Here they are. So there is 3. And then the last one here. All right, so I'm going to give you a little heads up. So for next month, I'm going to give you the layout to start laying together all the rows that we have done so far and stitching them together. And at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to complete the stitches between the rows so you're ready to go next box. When that comes in, you can start piecing your blocks together and doing that hand stitching to get a good jump on that extra stitching at the end. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this box. Thank you for subscribing. If you're not subscribed to it, make sure you give us a call and get on our waiting list, or we'll let you know. Kind of follow us and we'll let you know when we do have openings in the wool box. You can always check to see if we do have one currently. And yes, they do let you purchase the back projects as well. So I hope that clears up some of that information if you want to get in the wool box. And stay tuned for that video. Will be up next. All right, it's time to teach you how to do the embroidery stitches between the blocks. So this is right here what we're going to be doing between each set of the alternating colors blocks. So I did add one more element to it. They have the herringbone and then the lazy daisies, but I added a little knot in the middle as my little addition to their beautiful project. All right, so I have a needle right here, and here are the 3 threads that we're going to be using. Number 50126 is going to be the herringbone. Number 8 M23 is the lazy daisies, and then an 8-weight 1644, 1645, 1643, any of those will work for the brown. And I do want to point out that I picked these specific weights because they actually will form nicer stitches than you know, what they had here in the past. So my Lazy Daisies are nice and open and a little bit thicker using that thicker thread, and you see how theirs kind of close up. So that's why I chose the 8-weight thread to keep those more consistently open than the original. All right, so about 24 inches of thread of the gray 22 needle, and I'm going to place the eye of the needle onto the center of the thread, let go of everything, push down, and that pops right in the eye. You're going to place a knot at the end, and if you're not familiar with the way I do a lot of stitching, I do have this wonderful book that Martingale Publishing put out, Wool and Needle, the complete guide to wool applique and embroidery. So look for that book. That will help you tremendously. Tons and tons and tons of photos, step by step, of every time we move the needle or the fabric or whatever. It's just very awesome. All right, so now I'm going to do the herringbone just like this. So this is what I'm going to do first. So I have done it previously on everything that's stitched together, and I'll explain how I did the spacing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up in the seam allowance here. Like that's going to be tucked in my seam allowance, so you're not ever going to see where I started. And about 1/4 of an inch above the seam line here. So everything is based on 1/4 of an inch away from that center line there. All right, so I'm going to come up, and what I want to do is that herringbone stitch, so I want it to cross over. So then I know I'm going to eyeball right where I kind of want to come in, and it's probably about almost an inch away from where I started. It's probably a little too generous, probably 3/4. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stitch 1/4 of an inch to the left, and that's going to create that diagonal, just like that. Now I want to go up. So then what I'm going to do is, based on this right here, I'm going to insert my needle in the black, but I want it to come out kind of in line with this stitch down here. So with that being said, I'm going to just come up here about 1/4 of an inch away, slide up, and stitch 1/4 of an inch that way. And it might take you a few stitches to get this rhythm of it, but trust me, it goes by pretty fast once you do it. So you can always place that there and go, okay, yep, that looks right. So do you see how this and this are lined up? Kind of, not perfect. Don't think that these need to be perfect. And then right in here is where our 3 Lazy Daisies are going to be. So kind of make sure that that's open up there. And then once you get the hang of this, it's just goes kind of quickly. And I'm kind of holding it a little funny so the camera can see where I'm working. And if you notice, I have a pillow on my lap that helps hold my piece up and gives my arms a place to rest, so we're not sewing in the air or leaning over onto the table. And this pillow keeps your back into the chair when you're sitting in a chair. So I'll just finish up this row, and that's how fast it is. This stitching goes really, really, really fast. Once you get the hang of the spacing, you will love it. So don't be afraid. This is what's really going to elevate this quilt into something special, are these extra stitches we're putting in. And the instructions for this are going to be in the May wool box. So I'm going to put the end into the 1/4 inch. So again, that'll be caught into the seam allowance there. And then I'm going to flip to the back. I did have to take some stitching out to do this. And all I did is make a loop and go through that loop once, and you can go through twice, and that secures that down nicely. Clip it close, and then there we go. We have that all ready for us to do the next step, which is the lazy daisy. So I used a variegated thread to make it more interesting. Thread that needle. Just like that. It's so fun to do that. Put the knot in the end, 2 times around or 3. All right, so I'm just going to start in the middle just because it's just nicer for me to hang on to it that way and for the video. So I'm going to go and I'm going to make the center one first. So I'm going to swing it around just like the petal is going to go. I'm going to come in and about 1/4 of an inch. Don't try to make that too big. So about 1/4 of an inch gives you a nice size lazy daisy loop. And hopefully I'm not moving around too much for Kaylee. Swing the side one, enter in, come out above the thread. That makes that loop. Go down. And now I'm going to make the right hand one here. Come in, you're kind of pivoting out of that same hole. And yes, I kind of go over that gray thread. I kind of cover that up. And then bury that down. All right, so there's my little flower shape. And yes, I did go over these 2 little stems there. So I'm just going to leave this here so I can continue that later on. And then I have another spot over here that I can do some of the colonial knots. So do you see how I had that all clipped up while I was stitching? So this thing wasn't just kind of hanging around like that. I had it nice and contained so it was easy for me to flip around. All right, now's the time for the brown thread. And I'm going to do this double, so I only have to go once around when I'm doing my knot. And again, I'm just going to start in the middle. So I come up right in the center, and I'm going to come in, I'm going to hop over the thread, under, and turn it. So over, under, that's a little twist. That's what makes it the colonial knot. And I'm going to wrap one more time around, park it right back down in the center, pull it nice and tight here before I switch hands and pull the knot through. And it makes this perfect, beautiful knot every time. I'm going to go down. So I do the up and down. Over, under, turn once. So if you like a bigger knot, you can always go one more time around if you want. Up to the next one. I'll do this full speed. So even though I added those little knots, it's easy to execute them very quickly. And I just think it adds a little bit more to this embroidery. All right, so you get a great idea on how to do that. You'll get the order to stitch the blocks together in the May box. So I hope you enjoy all the stitching and you get a good jump on getting this together for the second half. All right, everybody. See you next time.